There arrives a moment in existence when the dynamics between caregivers and their offspring begin to transform. Years are devoted to nurturing them, steering them, and making sacrifices for their sake. But then one day you come to a profound realization that something has shifted. Perhaps they overlook your suggestions. Perhaps they overlook your viewpoints. Perhaps they belittle you, or even worse, they make you feel like a weight, and it stings. When your children begin to show you less respect than you rightfully deserve, it's natural to feel a sense of frustration, or even anger. It could be beneficial to bring to their attention all that you've contributed, the countless years dedicated to prioritizing their needs. However, the reality is that anger won't resolve the issue. In reality, it frequently exacerbates the situation. Rather, there exists a far more powerful approach to earn their respect back, free from conflict, devoid of disputes, and absent of bitterness. Today, I will discuss 6 strategies to consider when your children show a lack of respect. These are significant transformations, straightforward adjustments in your reactions that can entirely alter their perception of you. Some of these may catch you off guard, but if you stick around until the conclusion, you'll uncover the path to reclaiming your status as a respected and valued presence in their lives. Let's dive in and begin. Step 1. Cease the pursuit of their validation. One of the most significant errors caregivers often commit, particularly as they age, is exerting excessive effort to satisfy their offspring. Perhaps you've observed yourself engaging in it. You make a special effort to meet their needs. You agree even when you wish to disagree. You prioritize their needs over your own, believing that if you give enough, they will value you more. However, the harsh reality is that the more you seek their validation, the more your worth diminishes in their eyes. Do you understand what I'm saying? Respect is not gained by putting oneself aside. It is cultivated through honoring oneself. When you constantly prioritize others, consistently yield, and strive to maintain harmony, what you are truly conveying is that your emotions take a backseat. Once they begin to embrace that notion, it becomes effortless for them to overlook your value. There was a woman named Margaret, a formidable and self-sufficient individual in her youth. However, as she matured, she began to allow her children to take charge of all the choices. She adjusted her plans to accommodate their demands, held back her thoughts, and overlooked their condescending tone. Her words lingered in my mind. "I just want to keep the family together." So what transpired? Her children ceased to appreciate her. She was perceived as a person who would consistently adapt, invariably concur, and remain quiet. She believed she was maintaining harmony, yet in truth, she was silencing herself. If your children lack respect for you, the initial step isn't to insist on it. Rather, it's to cease behaving as though you require it. Establish limits. It's important to assert yourself and decline when necessary. Express your thoughts, regardless of whether others appreciate your perspective. As soon as you begin to honor your own worth, their perception of you will shift. Eventually, that respect will return to you. Step 2. Refrain from arguing. Instead, set a positive example. When your children disregard your views, interrupt you, or show you disrespect, your initial reaction may be to engage in a debate, to recount all that you've done, or to insist that they pay attention. However, I must emphasize that one thing that can spare you countless years of frustration is that arguing simply doesn't yield results. Consider it. When did you last persuade someone to acknowledge your worth by standing up for it? Respect is not something that can be claimed through mere words. It is cultivated through your presence, the manner in which you conduct yourself, and how you react when others challenge your patience. Responding to disrespect with anger only reinforces their belief that they hold power over you. I once met a man named Frank, a retired educator who dedicated his life to guiding a classroom with unwavering assurance. Yet at home, his adult children began to regard him as an afterthought. His advice went unheeded, his concerns brushed aside, and at times, they even chuckled when he attempted to set them straight. Initially, he countered their claims, striving to demonstrate that he was still worthy of their esteem. Yet, with each struggle, the situation only deteriorated further. Then one day, Frank decided to take a different path. Rather than engaging in a dispute, he began to truly pay attention, genuinely paying heed. He ceased pursuing validation through speech and instead conducted himself as someone who possessed it already. He conveyed his thoughts with a serene demeanor, exuding wisdom, unbothered by the desire to triumph. Gradually, his children began to take notice. They observed a man who exuded confidence without seeking their validation, who felt no compulsion to demonstrate his worth, who was merely a presence of resilience. If your children lack respect for you, don't engage in a battle over it. Demonstrate the essence of respect through the manner in which you care for yourself. Maintain your self-respect. Express yourself with assurance. Above all, maintain your dignity and refuse to stoop to their level. When you stand firm with elegance, others will sense it, and eventually, they will be inspired to follow your example. If you're still engaged with this video and appreciating these insights, kindly drop a number 2 in the comments to show your presence. If you haven't subscribed yet, I highly suggest you do so and activate the notification bell to ensure you never miss any of the videos. Your support enables us to keep producing valuable content that informs and inspires you. Let us proceed onward. Step 3. Detach your emotional reliance. As you navigate through life, one of the most challenging realizations is that seeking emotional fulfillment from your children may not be a viable path. Your feelings for them may run deep, and you might desire their love and respect in return. However, as soon as they perceive that you require their acknowledgement, the dynamics of the relationship change. The truth is, even your own offspring. Honor those who possess emotional autonomy. Relying on others for validation, affection, or attention creates a burden for them. Rather than experiencing gratitude, they begin to feel weighed down. They could distance themselves. They may begin to show signs of impatience or even annoyance towards you. The harder you pursue their affection, the more it seems to slip away from you. There was a time when I encountered a woman named Helen. She was a nurturing mother who devoted herself entirely to her children. As time passed and they became engrossed in their own pursuits, she often found herself lingering by the phone, yearning for their call. When they failed to reach out, she took it upon herself to call them, frequently, perhaps excessively. She expressed her longing for their company, sharing her desire for more visits from them. Yet rather than drawing them nearer, it drove them apart. Her calls began to feel like a duty rather than a source of anticipation. Then one day, Helen took a bold step into the unknown. She ceased her waiting. She ceased to initiate the calls. Instead, she began to prioritize her own well-being, exploring new interests, socializing with friends, and nurturing her own joy. Then, an unexpected event unfolded. Her kids began to reach out more frequently. They began to honor her time, recognizing her as an individual with a rich and fulfilling life of her own. The concept is straightforward. When you rely less on your children for validation, they will begin to appreciate your presence more deeply. When you demonstrate your ability to stand firm independently, respect will follow, not from a sense of duty, but from a true admiration for the life you've crafted for yourself. Step 4. Establish limits and uphold them. One of the primary factors contributing to a decline in children's respect for their parents is the parents' own allowance of such behavior. When you permit your children to speak to you without respect, disregard your views, or act as though your time and emotions are insignificant, this behavior will persist. It's not that they are inherently bad individuals. Rather, it's that people, particularly those closest to you, will consistently respond to you in the manner you permit them to. Establishing boundaries isn't about severing ties with your children or fostering discord. It involves making a composed and resolute choice about the behaviors you are willing to tolerate and those you are not. Moreover, it signifies the necessity of upholding those boundaries when they are violated. I recall a man named Robert, a retired businessman who dedicated his life to managing a company with unwavering discipline and self-assurance. However, when it involved his grown children, he faced difficulties. They cut him off mid-sentence, brushed aside his worries, and even took issue with his lifestyle choices. Initially, he put up with it. He reassured himself that the struggle wasn't worth it. However, as time passed, he came to understand that each moment of silence on his part was conveying to them that their actions were permissible. One day, Robert decided to take a different path. When his son interrupted him, he replied with a composed demeanor, I'll carry on when you're prepared to hear me out. When his daughter dismissed his opinion, he calmly responded, "You don't have to agree with me, but I expect you to respect me." When they persisted in testing his boundaries, he firmly stated that if they couldn't extend him basic respect, he would no longer be investing his time in their company. Do you want to hear what transpired? They began to pay attention. Initially, there was resistance. However, as time passed, they came to understand that their father was resolute in his stance. They recognized that he held himself in high regard, insisting on the respect he deserved. Consequently, they began to offer it to him. If your children lack respect for you, it may be time to reflect on whether you are permitting this behavior. Without establishing your own limits, others will impose theirs upon you. If you fail to advocate for yourself, you can't expect anyone else to do it for you. If you're still engaged with this video and appreciating these insights, I'd love for you to drop a comment with the number 4 below to show your presence. If you haven't subscribed yet, I highly suggest you do so and activate the notification bell to ensure you catch all the latest videos. Your encouragement enables us to keep producing valuable content that informs and inspires you. Let us proceed onward. Step 5. Cease offering without recognition. One of the fastest paths to diminishing respect is to continue offering to those who fail to value it. As caregivers, we engage in this practice more frequently than we acknowledge. We invest our time, our energy, our support, even when it goes unrecognized, even when it is overlooked, even when we encounter nothing but a sense of entitlement. However, the reality is this. When you offer to someone who fails to value it, you don't cultivate affection. Respect isn't something you construct. You create anticipation. They begin to perceive your kindness not as a precious gift, but rather as something they inherently deserve. And when you cease, they no longer express gratitude. They experience a sense of disruption. There was a man named George, a father whose generosity towards his children was unwavering. He provided them with financial support whenever necessary, set aside his own priorities to lend a hand, and even adjusted his life to meet their requirements. However, rather than receiving appreciation, he encountered grievances. They failed to express their gratitude. They anticipated greater things. And the most frustrating aspect was that when he finally sought their assistance, they were preoccupied with other matters. Then, one day, George decided to make a shift. He ceased to stretch himself too thin. He ceased to extend assistance even before it was requested. And above all, he began to assert himself by saying no when it was necessary. Initially, his children experienced a sense of frustration. They failed to grasp why he no longer went out of his way for them. Yet, as time passed, a change occurred. They began to appreciate his time. They began to recognize his efforts as they came to understand that his generosity had its limits. It was a present, not a promise. When it seems that your children overlook your time, effort, or kindness, consider taking a moment to reflect. Consider whether you are contributing beyond what is necessary. What might occur if you decided to cease? When you convey that your kindness hinges on respect, others will begin to perceive it in that manner. Step 6. Create a life beyond their influence. One of the most impactful methods to earn your children's respect is to demonstrate that your happiness is not solely dependent on them. As caregivers, it's instinctive to dedicate ourselves to our offspring, placing them at the heart of our existence. However, as we age, that dynamic changes. When you've dedicated your whole life to putting them first, they might begin to perceive you as someone lacking other pursuits. Individuals earn admiration when they possess a clear purpose, pursue their own interests, and cultivate a genuine sense of fulfillment. If your children perceive that you depend on them for amusement, affirmation, or purpose, they may begin to feel overwhelmed or even worse. They may begin to perceive you as a person lacking a life of your own. I once met a woman named Eleanor, a widow in her late 70s. Following the loss of her husband, she devoted herself entirely to her children's lives, frequently reaching out, offering unsolicited advice, and hoping they would occupy the void left by her partner. Yet rather than bringing them together, it drove them apart. Visits dwindled, conversations grew brief, and Eleanor found herself engulfed in a profound sense of solitude. In that moment, she decided, She became a member of a book club. She began her adventures alongside friends. She dedicated her time at a local community center. She ceased to place her children at the heart of her universe, and an extraordinary transformation occurred. Her children began to connect more frequently. They were intrigued by her actions. Her independence was a source of admiration. She commanded their respect. If your children lack respect for you, consider this. Do they perceive you as a person leading a rich and purposeful life? Or do they perceive you as someone lingering for their focus? When you demonstrate that you are truly alive, rather than merely going through the motions, others will begin to perceive you in an entirely new way. If you're still engaged with this video and appreciating these insights, I'd love for you to comment number 6 below to show me you're present. If you haven't subscribed yet, I highly encourage you to do so and activate the notification bell to ensure you never miss any of the videos. Your support enables us to keep producing valuable content that informs and inspires you. Concluding reflections. Respect is not something that can be commanded from your children. It's an essence you convey through your demeanor, through the boundaries you establish, and through the life you lead. If they have begun to show you less care, consideration, or respect, don't expend your energy on anger. Change your perspective. Cease the pursuit of their validation. The less you seek it, the more it will naturally come your way. Set the standard through your actions, as your integrity resonates more profoundly than mere speech. Release your emotional reliance. The greater your self-sufficiency, the more they will value your presence. Establish limits, for individuals will only regard you in accordance with the standards you set for them. Cease offering without recognition, for when kindness is overlooked, it diminishes in worth. Above all, cultivate a life beyond their influence, as individuals are admired for possessing their own ambitions, their own happiness, and their own sense of achievement. By taking these steps, you will unlock something extraordinary. Your children will begin to perceive you differently, not as someone seeking their attention, but as an individual who naturally commands respect through their very presence. In due course, that respect will return to you, not through demands, but as a result of your own efforts. We appreciate your presence with us today. We eagerly await your thoughts. Share your thoughts in the comments and tell us one thing you discovered today and how you intend to incorporate it into your life. Your insights matter greatly, so feel free to express them. Your feedback inspires and uplifts us tremendously. If this video resonated with you and proved useful, consider liking, subscribing, and sharing it with others. Your encouragement enables us to keep producing valuable content that informs and inspires you. We appreciate your viewership and eagerly anticipate your presence in our next video.